difference. The topic I presented to you was how do you stand out and say, make a difference? Because it's easy to say, I'm one person. What can I do? How can I affect change? But you can. You just have to have that belief. So, Scott, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, this one I struggled with a little bit, because when you talk about making a difference, it's about doing the little things that maybe don't get noticed, or doing things for the right reasons, but it all begins with some of the little things. And so when I got to kind of thinking about this, I kept coming back to that. I kept coming back to, compassion. I kept coming back to, people doing those little things for each other. And what facilitated this, as you know, Brandon, was, our friend in Butte County, who is undergoing some troubles, and the GoFundMe page is blown up. And how do you know if you're making a difference? Well, here's what I came up with. And the first thing it reminded me of was a story. A long time ago, I knew a boy who grew up loving sports. He and his best friend would be the kids outside throwing the football under the streetlight, and they knew all of their football teams before their alphabet, and every day at school, they wore some sort of clothing with their favorite teams on it. And ever since elementary school, this was a quarterback and receiver duo poised to be the next stars of their high school team. As freshmen, they had already gained the attention of several colleges, and the next 3 years in high school were going to be record-breaking for this pair. Everyone knew it. Well, over the summer, his best friend, his quarterback, they moved away. The town, the school, and this kid was devastated. Their quarterback was gone, and so was this boy's dream of playing football. As the following season began, this despondent and depressed football player had lost his passion, until one day he was in the store with his mom, and a community member walked up to him and said, "Hey, I'm sorry about your quarterback, but you're still the leader of this team. Find a different way to get the job done. They won't win without you." That moment changed everything for this kid. Sometimes the smallest things make the biggest difference. But how do we know? How do we know when that moment comes that we change the course of someone's life? How do we know that our small gestures of kindness aren't just drops in a bucket, never noticed, never felt? The answer is we don't. But do we need to know? Or do we just need to know that our actions don't always get recognition? Doing the small things aren't glamorous, and they aren't supposed to be. But the impact these gestures have is like a ripple effect that lasts longer than any grandiose gesture. I think part of the problem is that many of us don't do something not to get something. We've succumbed to this sensationalized society that every good deed needs immediate recognition, and the thought of doing something just because it made someone else feel good is dismissed as an inconvenience. We now reward people for doing what they're supposed to do. How many times could we have looked up from our phone and just smiled at someone? How many times did we take the time to pay a complete stranger a compliment? And how many times have you told your mother that you love her just because you can? Forget it. What difference does it make? Every one of us fights our own demons, and every one of us has a story. And every single one of us at one point or another can use something small just to help fill that bucket. Whether it's a check-in phone call, a text asking how the day is going, or a note left in a car just saying you're thinking about them. Those are the things that cost nothing, yet they are the richest gifts that we can give. A friend of mine, Jason, he grew up in Wyoming, and he had a best friend who committed suicide. It was unexpected, and it took everyone by surprise. For years, Jason beat himself up over this because he thought he missed the signs or could have done something to prevent this tragedy. Well, over time, Jason's love for his lost friend and the need to do whatever he could not to let something like this happen again led him to create the Jay Foundation in honor of his friend, Jay. The concept is to do a boot check on people. In other words, check in just to make sure they are all right, as the entire operation revolves around cowboy boots because Jay wore cowboy boots everywhere he went. Even as a little kid, he refused to take them off at bedtime. There's so much more to this amazing story and organization, but the gist of it is that we need to do the small things before the big things are what we can't take back. The small things, noticed or not, are the cornerstones to positivity. The small things are the glimmers of hope that can make someone stop for just a second and realize that someone cares, that humanity still exists. And the effect. You know, it was once said that great things are done by a series of small things brought together. But we forget that. We forget that people need connection. They need to know that they're cared for. But we dismiss these simple gestures like a smile, a hello, a good morning, a note for no reason, and even a small donation to a great cause for our friend from Butte County. So, do we need validation that our gestures matter? We end up telling ourselves, what difference does it make? Well, it doesn't have to make a difference to you, even though in your soul it does, but know that it makes a difference even if you don't see it, and it does seem insignificant. I believe the secret to us doing more of these small things is gratitude. So many of us aren't grateful for what we have that we fail to recognize those who would give anything to be in our shoes. And once we focus on what we do have and not what we don't have, the true meaning of gratitude is understood. Then the act of doing these small things for people becomes more prevalent and for the right reasons. I can't help but think of little kids who see someone crying, someone in pain. Oftentimes, their first reaction is to give them a hug. They want to make it better. The compassion wrapped up in those little bodies are as pure and as close to unfiltered love as you can get. You see, kids are genuine until we teach them not to be. So you ask, when do we know if we're making a difference? The answer is, it doesn't matter. Life's bank account isn't in a building. It's inside of us. And the currency is never ending. So take a moment to boot check with someone. Take a moment to tell someone, a coach, a parent, that they made a difference. Take a moment to donate. And take a moment to change someone's life with something small. You'll be surprised how that affects your own state of mind. Be the change you wish to see in the world. And then ask yourself, what difference does it make? I want to take you back to the story of the football player who was ready to quit until words from a stranger changed it all. This kid went on to win 2 football state championships and had a successful college baseball career, all due in part to someone who took the time to say what he needed to hear. This kid was saved. This kid ended up being grateful. And although he isn't perfect, this kid tries to pay it back. And this kid is me. Those are Scott's thoughts.